So I'm repotting my mulberry now, and I'm also going to do a bit of pruning. So first and foremost, obviously you've got to get it out of the original pot and clean up the root ball a little. So just to avoid the absolutely boring process and long-termness of it, this is basically after I've given it a good clean up. With mine, basically because it's quite a large one in a pot and it's been sitting there neglected realistically for quite some time. Got a hose to it and gave it a good hosing. Not realistically the most delicate or finesse-filled way of doing it, but it is effective. Just be careful you don't cause too much in the way of damage. I know that this root structure is quite strong, so I can handle it. I also had to take care of the area I'm in. A lot of ants and so forth will get in, so it's a good way of reducing that when you're doing the repot. The other is that some climbing plant had gotten in there, so I needed to get in far enough to be able to get that out, roots and all as well. So your next step, obviously, relatively simple. It's basically just a larger version of what you did when you potted it in the first place. You know, put down a good quality potting mix and place it in gently, try to fill around it, and get that, and I'll show you the finished product here. So this time around I added a bit of coconut coir into the mix. I've got a high peat moss potting mix that I generally use, but the coconut coir is actually supposed to be a lot better for taking moisture back in if you let it dry out too much, and given that I have a tendency to neglect my plants at times, that is definitely a benefit. So I'm just going to see how that actually works out. Now the roots you're seeing showing there, this is one of the reasons why I always put my potting mix in to a plant and then I give it a good heavy watering afterwards. So you see these weren't exposed before I watered, now they are. So that just lets everything settle in nicely, and then I'll add a bit more potting mix on top so that it's actually covered correctly, and essentially keep on doing that until the roots are covered. So as you can see now, the roots are almost completely covered, except for a couple of odd little stragglers there, which I'm not going to be worried about. The other element is you don't necessarily need to cover them completely. You know, for example, you might be wanting to stylize bonsai, things like that. You actually like to expose some of the roots to give an appearance that you can work on with them. There's a lot of plants that you'll that actually look really nice that way, like some of the ways you'll do desert roses looks beautiful. If you want to grow it over a rock, like all sorts of things that you can do. So covering the roots isn't a requirement, but if you're just planting it as a plant, then generally it's a better idea to keep them nicely covered, because it's where it gets most of its nutrients from, and they're supposed to be covered, so that's basically the way that you want it. Other than that, that's essentially the repotting process.